The stars looked calm that night. But something strange was happening far above Earth. A giant silver ship floated quietly beyond the moon. It did not belong to humans. It came from a peaceful alien race called the Valari. Their skin was smooth, like glass, and their eyes glowed softly like blue lights. The Valari were travelers and watchers. For thousands of years, they visited planets to see if other life forms were ready to join their great galactic family now. It was Earth's turn. The Valari did not know much about humans. Most of their information was old or unclear, some believed. Earth was still a wild place. Others thought humans were still learning how to build cities and send messages. But what they saw now shocked them. From orbit, Earth was full of light. Thousands of satellites moved in perfect lines. Cities glowed like stars. Machines flew through the sky, and strange metal birds called planes carried humans across oceans in hours. The Valari watched in silence, their minds full of wonder and worry. Are they... Ready? Asked Elder Virel, leader of the Valari. Ship, they are much more advanced than expected, replied a younger observer. But their history shows many conflicts. Yes, Virel said. They have fought many times. We must be careful. Still, the Valari believed in peace and learning. They decided to try. A small ship flew down through Earth's clouds. It made no sound. It landed in a quiet desert, far from cities. Send out a gentle signal in hundreds of languages within hours. Earth responded to the Valari's surprise. The reply was calm, organized, and friendly. A group called the United Planetary Council answered. This was a team of humans from different countries, working together for space matters. They invited the Valari to a peaceful meeting on the moon. The Valari accepted. 3 days later, in a shining dome near the moon's south pole, humans and Valari met face to face for the first time. The humans arrived in sleek white suits. Some were scientists, some were leaders. One woman, Captain Lena Moreau, stood at the front. Her eyes were sharp and kind at the same time. She had spent years studying space and working with people from many nations. She greeted the Valari with a small smile. Welcome, she said. We're honored to meet you. What? The Valari blinked. In surprise, these humans were not afraid, not angry, just curious. Elder Virel bowed gently. We came to see if your kind is ready for the stars. Lena nodded. Then let us show you something special. The next day, the Valari were taken to a large open area on the moon, near a tall glass tower. There, a great event was being prepared. Bright lights, floating cameras, and large digital screens surrounded a huge field with strange equipment. This, Lena explained, is the Global Unity Games. We hold it every 4 years. It brings together people from every part of Earth. Games, Virel asked. What kind of games? They are not just sports, Lena said. These events test problem-solving, teamwork, science, and survival skills. Some parts are like battles, but no one gets hurt. It's about learning, not fighting. The Valari watched in quiet confusion. To them, competition was a rare thing. Their own people had not played games in centuries. They lived in balance, with no need for challenge. But humans were different. The field buzzed with energy. People from all walks of life, men, women, young and old, were preparing for the games. Some climbed walls. Others tested puzzles. Robots moved through mazes. Giant spheres floated in the air, waiting to be used. This is how we grow stronger, Lena said. By challenging ourselves. By learning from each other. Virel looked uneasy. Do these games prepare you for war? Lena smiled. No, they prepare us for the unknown, for space, for problems we haven't faced yet. The Valari looked. Around, there was laughter, focus, excitement. No one was afraid. Even the smallest team was trying their best. They compete so fiercely, one Valari whispered. Even though no real danger is here, Virel folded his arms. Or perhaps they know that danger always finds its way, and they simply prepare. Later that night, the Valari returned to their ship. It had seen more in one day than they expected in years. These humans are strange, one said. Yes, Varel replied. They build for peace, but they train as if disaster waits behind every door. Should we be worried? Varel looked out at Earth, spinning silently below. The blue oceans, the green lands, the glowing cities. No, he said, we should be watching carefully. For the Valari had just learned something very important. Humans do not wait for the stars, they race toward them. The opening ceremony of the Global Unity Games was unlike anything the Valari had ever seen. Thousands of humans stood together on the moon's surface, wearing colorful uniforms. Flags from almost every nation on Earth waved gently in the low gravity. Some people smiled and waved to the cameras floating above. Others stood quietly, focused and ready. It was not just a contest, it was a message. Humanity was united. The Valari ship hovered nearby, its crew watching from a wide viewing window. They had seen many worlds in their long travels, but never a planet like Earth, never a species like humans. Why do they look so serious? One Valari asked. This is only a game, Elder Varel replied. To them, games are never simple. They use them to show who they are. The first event began in a huge indoor dome built with transparent walls. Inside, a maze floated in midair. It was made of spinning platforms, moving blocks, and shifting walls. The goal, reach the center and activate the light beacon. Each team had 4 people. They wore lightweight suits and carried small tools. No weapons, no violence. Just skill, teamwork, and speed. A voice echoed through the arena. Level 1, zero-gravity maze begins in 10-9. 8. The Valari leaned closer to their screens. The countdown ended. The humans launched into the maze. They moved like dancers in space. Some pushed off walls with perfect timing. Others grabbed teammates who missed a jump. Teams from different countries used different styles. Some rushed, some paused to plan. Some even helped other teams that got stuck. The Valari were stunned. They compete, but they also cooperate, one whispered. Elder Varel nodded slowly. Yes, they compete to grow, not to harm. At the end of the round, one team reached the center first. But they turned and pulled another team to the goal with them just before the timer ended. The arena burst into cheers. Not for winning, but for helping. Outside the dome, more challenges awaited. A desert simulation tested survival skills. A tall tower challenge tested speed and memory. But the one that caught everyone's attention was the eco-crisis simulation. In this event, teams were placed in a fake alien environment where resources were low. They had to build, plan, and share to keep a small colony alive for 24 hours. If they argued too much or took too much, the system would fail. If they worked together, they would thrive. The Valari watched with nervous interest. This test was close to their own values: balance, harmony, and smart choices. At first, many teams struggled. Some argued over tools, some tried to go alone, but slowly, things changed. People traded resources, shared power, split tasks. Laughter returned. Teams who were strangers at the start now worked like old friends by the end of the day. All colonies survived. They learn as they go, a Valari engineer said. Yes, Virel replied. They make mistakes, but they improve quickly. That is their true strength. But not everything was peaceful. The Valari noticed something strange. Even in simple challenges, the humans showed an edgier kind of fire. They pushed harder even when they didn't need to. They trained between events. They studied past results. Some practiced at night in silence. One human team, led by Captain Lena Moreau, was especially focused. They worked with quiet speed. They always shared knowledge with others. But they never stopped improving. Why do they try so hard? A young Valari asked. They have nothing to prove. Elder Varel looked thoughtful. Maybe they are not competing with others. Maybe they are competing with themselves. On the 4th night, a light show lit the moon sky. Holograms of famous human scientists and explorers danced above the arena. A message played in many languages. We do not train for war. We train for the unknown. We train to be better. The Valari watched in silence. They'd never seen a race so proud, so hungry for growth, so full of dreams, and yet so unpredictable. They are kind, said one observer. But they could also be dangerous, Virel agreed. They carry peace in their hearts, but fire in their minds. If guided well, they could lead. If left alone, who knows? As the next day began, a new challenge was announced. The Gauntlet, a full-space mission simulation. It would test strategy, decision-making, and teamwork under pressure. The Valari would be invited to watch from inside. Elder Virel narrowed his glowing eyes. This will show us who they really are. The clean floors and colorful flags were now gone. In their place stood a dark field filled with metal towers, flashing lights, and small drones flying in circles above. This was no longer a game of speed or strength. It was a test of mind, choices, and leadership. It was time for the final event, the Gauntlet. The Valari stood in their ship's observation room, silent and curious. They had watched many parts of the Global Unity games, but this event was different. It looked like a battle yet. No one would be harmed. What is this for? A young Valari asked. To test how humans would act in conflict, Elder Virel replied. Not a real fight, but a simulation. Strategy, teamwork, trust. The rules were simple, but the challenge was complex. Each team was given a mission. Enter the field, reach the command center, and solve the final puzzle. But the area was filled with traps, cameras, robots, and hidden tools. They could use drones, holograms, and sound to distract or block other teams. There were no weapons. No one could be hurt. But the pressure was real. Captain Lena Moreau stood with her team at the gate. She had spent her life training in science and space operations, but this event needed more than knowledge. It needed calm thinking under stress. Remember, Lena told her team, this isn't about winning. It's about showing what humans do when things get hard. Let's do this. Right, her team nodded. The horn blew. The gauntlet began. Teams entered from different sides. The arena was like a small city with tall structures, dark corners, and hidden surprises. Lena's team moved quickly, staying close to the walls. They used tiny mirrors to reflect lights and confuse motion sensors. Another team tried to rush ahead, only to be stopped by a locked door. A third team created a fake decoy using a hologram. They tricked a drone into following the wrong path. The Valari watched with growing surprise. They're not just playing, one observer whispered. They're planning, adapting, learning. Are solving problems like they've done this before, said another. They have done this before, Virel said. Every day on Earth, in cities, in labs, in disasters. This is their nature. Halfway through the simulation, a twist was announced. One team has a secret code. Other teams must find it before they reach the final puzzle, or they will fail. The message spread across the team's communication networks. Pressure grew. Some teams paused. Some panicked. Others began forming short-term alliances. Lena's team received a private message. Another team wanted to meet and trade clues. It could be a trap, one teammate warned. Lena shook her head. Or it could be a test to see if we can trust. They went to the meeting spot carefully. Another team stood there. Also cautious but calm. Instead of fighting or blocking each other, the two teams shared clues. They made a new plan. They would help each other reach the final area, then solve the puzzle together. From above, the Valari saw it all. These humans are in a high-stress test, said one elder. But they still choose to help. They don't need a single winner, Virel said. They want all to succeed. In the last 10 minutes, the teams reached the command center. It was a tall structure with a large screen. The final puzzle was complex. A moving grid of numbers, colors, and sounds. Required logic, memory, and coordination. Lena's voice stayed calm. She guided the team like a ship's captain through a storm. Blue row. Match the red sound. Wait, now, Green, press it. The room lit up. Puzzle complete. Gauntlet complete. Cheers echoed across the arena. The lights came back on. Robots powered down. Drones returned to their docks. The humans took off their helmets and smiled. Some sat on the ground, tired but happy. Others hugged. No one was angry. No one claimed to be the best. They all shared the victory. Back on the Volari ship, silence filled the room. The alien council stood quietly watching the screen. They planned like warriors, said one. They acted with reason, said another. They competed fiercely, said a third, but not with hate. Elder Varel took a long breath. They train for danger, but they choose kindness. That makes them powerful. One young Volari looked confused. But if they are so strong, why do they still play games? Virel turned slowly. Because they know something we forgot, he said. Strength is not only in winning, it is in learning, and sharing, and trying again. The games were over, but the Volari had more questions now than before. Who really were these humans, and what would happen when the stars finally opened their doors to them? The Global Unity Games had reached their final day. The Volari observers still watched from their ship above the moon, fascinated and cautious. Humans had shown strength, teamwork, and kindness in every test. But the Volari still wondered, what would happen when real danger arrived? They would not have to wait long. Early that morning, a sudden alarm blared through the Volari ship's command center. A bright red light flashed on the main screen. An asteroid is approaching Mars Base Alpha, announced the ship's captain. Mars Base Alpha was the first human colony on Mars, a place where thousands lived and worked. If the asteroid hit, it could cause a disaster. The Volari froze. This is unexpected, said Elder Varel. Our sensors missed it. Can we stop it? Asked a younger observer nervously. We do not move fast enough, said the captain, but the humans. Maybe they can. Without delay, the Volari sent a message to the Global Unity Games command center on the moon. The humans received the news instantly. Faces turned serious. The games paused. Captain Lena Morrow stepped forward. This is no longer a game, she said clearly. It is real. We must work together now. Teams that were rivals a moment ago were suddenly united by one goal: save the colony. Scientists, engineers, and athletes left their stations and rushed to control rooms. Communications experts opened channels with Mars Base Alpha. Every available satellite and drone was prepared to help. The Volari watched in awe. They expected confusion, fear, and mistakes. Instead, they saw calm. Humans worked like a single mind. Lena coordinated teams from different countries. People shared data, power, and ideas without hesitation. They adapted the technology used for the games and turned it into a powerful defense system. Satellites adjusted their paths to push the asteroid off course. Drones formed a wide net around the space rock, scanning for weak spots. The Volari realized the humans were using teamwork and creativity as weapons, not violence. Minutes turned into hours. The asteroid closed in fast. On Mars Base Alpha, alarms sounded. People waited, holding their breath. The humans in space did not stop. They pushed drones closer. They launched controlled bursts of energy, small, precise, and safe to nudge the asteroid away from the base. The Volari were amazed. This was a race against time, a challenge that required trust, skill, and courage.
Then it happened. The asteroid's path shifted. It moved just enough to miss Mars Base Alpha. Cheers erupted on the moon, on Mars, and even on Earth. Captain Lena smiled but
stayed focused. This is only the beginning, she said. There will be more challenges ahead, but together we can face anything. The Volari were silent. They had never seen such a display of human power and peace combined. Is this what they call going to battle? Psst, guessed a young Volari with wide eyes. Yes, Elder Varel answered. But their battle is not against each other. It is against the universe's challenges, against the unknown. Later, as calm returned, the Volari held a secret meeting. Humans are unpredictable. said one elder. They prepare for war, but use it to create peace. We feared their strength, said another, but they do not seek destruction. Varel looked out the window, watching Earth's blue glow. They fight with ideas, with unity. That makes them powerful. One Valari smiled softly. Maybe it is time to welcome them. The Global Unity Games closed with a quiet ceremony. The Valari ambassador stood before the humans and spoke. We came expecting warriors. Instead, we found dreamers who fight not with weapons, but with hope. Where humans cheered, they knew their journey was only starting. And somewhere deep inside, every human felt ready. Ready to face the stars. Ready to face whatever came next. The final day of the Global Unity Games was calm, but filled with hope. The Valari ship still floated above the moon, watching humans prepare for the next steps in their journey. The asteroid near Mars Base Alpha was gone. Thanks to human teamwork, the Valari no longer saw humans as just a young species learning to survive. They saw them as a new partner in the stars. Back on Earth, Captain Lena Moreau stood on a large platform in a shining hall. People from all over the world filled the room. Leaders, scientists, children, and families waited to hear the final message from the Valari. The Valari ambassador stepped forward. His blue glowing eyes reflected the bright lights of the hall. We have come from far away, he began, to watch, to learn, and to understand. We feared your power, but we saw your hearts. The crowd listened quietly. You humans do not fight like others we know. You fight with courage, with kindness, and with hope. You are ready for the stars. We invite you to join the Galactic Council to share knowledge and friendship. Room erupted in applause. That evening, the Valari ship opened its doors for the first time. Humans were invited to step inside. Captain Lena and her team led the way. Inside, the ship was unlike anything humans had seen. It was smooth and bright. Walls glowed softly. Machines hummed quietly as the Valari shared stories of their travels, their history, and their dreams. Lena listened carefully. We have much to learn, she said, but we want to grow together. The Valari smiled. Days passed quickly. Training and preparation began for a new mission, this time beyond the moon. To explore deep space, humans and Valari would work side by side. For many humans, this was more than science. It was a chance to prove that their way of learning, of growing through challenge without harm, could change the universe. One night, aboard the Valari ship, Lena stood by a large window, looking at Earth. She thought about the games, the challenges, the near disaster on Mars. She thought about the Valari watching in silence and wonder. Her voice was soft, but full of hope. We don't just go to battle, to win or to destroy, she said. We go to battle to protect, to learn, and to build a better future. The Valari elder VL joined her at the window. You humans have taught us much, he said. Your strength is not in force, but in heart. That is a rare gift. Lena smiled. Maybe we are different, but we are ready. Varel looked out, into space. The stars are waiting. In the days that followed, new teams formed. Humans and Valari trained together. They shared technology, culture, and stories. Every mission was a step forward, a step of trust. The universe was large and full of unknowns, but for the first time, two very different races stood together, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as partners. Back on Earth, children looked up at the sky and dreamed. They dreamed of flying among the stars. They dreamed of friendship across worlds, and they knew deep inside that humans would always fight, not for war, but for hope. And so, the story of humanity's journey to the stars was only just beginning. The Valari watched not in horror anymore, but with pride. For humans were not just warriors. They were dreamers. They were builders. They were the light of a new future.